Hello, basketball fans. It's me, DC, and I'm here, Fantasy Basketball Analyzer, to help you get ready for Week 14 of the NBA season, which might be called Week 13 in your fantasy league, but that doesn't matter. I don't know why I keep harping on it. So we're going to get ready for Week 14 by going through the waiver wire, finding the best options we can, even though I actually think it's a pretty weak week for picking up waiver ads. We'll find some options for you. Maybe just help you steer clear and help you sit cool. But we're going to break it down, and let's start with some names that I couldn't make the list. They're over 50%. I mentioned in yesterday's video, if you haven't watched it, I already talked about the schedule. It's worth checking out. That I thought Utah might be a good option for weekly leagues. They get 4 games, and they get to play Chicago and Brooklyn at the start. Joe Ingles is at 51%, so he doesn't quite make this list, but he's right at that halfway point. I'd give it a check. The next big thing going on, the obvious thing going on, is LeBron got hurt. He has a high ankle sprain. Now, when it says LeBron, high ankle sprain, out indefinitely, that sounds like, it could be the end of the world. And we don't know a timetable, right? LeBron's, other than the groin injury the other year, has been kind of an Iron Man throughout. Like, if he comes back in 2 games, which has not been reported, do not take this as fact, it would kind of just be, to me, another of course he did. LeBron is an amazing freak of nature, athlete, and he takes such good care of his body, and he's back. Oh, my God. But I wouldn't plan on that, which makes, I think, Talen Horton-Tucker the number 1 pickup right now that's out there. He's rostered in 18% of leagues. He is the backup to LeBron, at least in name. He's a guy to pick up. Hope it works out. The Lakers have 4 games this week, which makes it all the more interesting. They start off against the Pelicans. They don't have any stay-away games because it's Pelicans, Philly, Cleveland, Orlando. So I talked about Lakers being a good move in yesterday's show before this happened. I think he's the pickup. Kuzma's over 60% owned. He's already getting a bunch of minutes, but you can take a look if you're in that 40% of leagues. Otherwise, I'd add to your watch list, add Wes Matthews, add KCP. KCP might get more opportunities to score here. But just watch lists. We don't know how long LeBron's going to be out, how much to attack it. But if you see something good, go ahead and pounce on it, even for the short term, because you might get a real advantage here. Along the obvious news thing, we talked about Dwight last week. Dwight's still only 46% rostered. He's got only a 3-game week. So, I'm not falling all over myself to get it. He's got Golden State, Lakers, and the Clippers. The schedule doesn't excite me, but he's been doing basically exactly what we said last week, right? 12 points, 11 rebounds, block and a half. That's what you're getting from him. And if you pick him up for another week till Embiid's back, that's worth going for. Those I feel are kind of really the obvious names to take a look at. I've checked on Yahoo and stuff for recent transaction trends and seen people picking up Alec Burks, which makes sense because Rose was out because he's on the COVID list. Peyton's had the hammy, quickly had the high ankle sprain. But even by the time this video gets out, we might learn that Peyton and Quickly are already back. The New York guards are just a mess for fantasy, right? The rotation's all screwy. If you want to roll the dice on Burks, I don't hate it because New York they only have a 3-game week, but if you're in a daily change league, they get to play Washington twice, and they're playing on Tuesday and Thursday, which are the low volume days, right? So you get good matchup against the Wizards, and you probably get to play them in your lineup. So if you want to take a look at that, but be ready to cut bait because there's a good chance the minutes just go to crap. And it's a swing and a miss. But it's a strong strategy, and a lot of the names I have on the list this week actually have pretty bad weeks. A lot of 3-game teams and stuff like that, which isn't really what I try to bring you, or their games just aren't matching on the streamable days, which is kind of a bummer. Before I get into the 3-game guys and the stashes, Marcus Morris Sr. made my list. Morris has 4 games because the Clippers are playing 4 games. And a couple games this week, he started ahead of Batum. I don't think there's much that's going to wow you here, right? We're talking about a guy that's going to get you 10, 11 points, 7 rebounds. You're not going to get big blocks, even though you can play him at center. He's going to give you a good field goal percentage and maybe some threes. So, you're talking a 3, 10 points, 7 boards, and 50% shooting. If you need the big man and he plays 4 games, then go for it. But otherwise, I'm not falling all over myself to pick him up. All right, loosening up the standards a little bit, talking about the guys with 3 games. I think Jordan Poole is a pretty strong ad, actually. He's been averaging like 24 points a game over the last 3 games. He's not getting you a lot else, though. If we're talking 3 boards, 3 assists or something, like it's not bad, but he's been getting a lot of minutes. It's points and threes, and he's just doing it with pretty good like shooting efficiency. So if you're playing in a categories league, it's both percentages and threes and points, like you're pretty happy with that. That gets you 4 of the categories for a pickup. That's great. Now he only plays 3 games this week, but if you're in a daily change league, he plays on good streaming days. So they play on Tuesday, which only has 6 games, against Philly. And then he gets to play Sacramento on Thursday, which only has 5 games. So that's great. Even though there's only 3 games, you'll probably get him in for sure 2 of those games. He's been playing well. I would give Jordan Poole a look in your daily change league or points leagues. So the next group of players I'm talking about is kind of a trend of fantasy, right? We get towards the end of the season, the bad teams, whether they're intentionally tanking or have just traded away assets and stuff, is where we get the young guys getting some more run. I've talked about Houston before, and Houston's got 4 games. So if you want to go look and see if Tate and stuff's still out there, go for it. Unfortunately, KJ Martin, who we talked about last week, seems to be in self-isolation for potential COVID. Don't know how long that's going to last, so maybe it doesn't help you out this week. Anyway, not going to talk about Houston because we talked about him a bunch. Let's go look at Detroit. Saddiq Bey has been on a tear for the last couple games, getting like 24 points per game with about 3 threes, maybe 4 threes per game. Not as great a percentage, but it's right around that range we were talking about with Jordan Poole, and he also only plays 3 games. Detroit's schedule isn't as great. Indiana, Brooklyn, Washington. You like Brooklyn and Washington, but Indiana and Brooklyn fall on the heavy volume days, so in your daily change leagues, you might not get as much use out of them. But he's got 4 games this week, and if he keeps it up, it's worth an ad. But he's not alone there in Detroit. I'm also looking at Isaiah Stewart. He came up in the Discord chat. If you guys didn't know, we have a Discord. It's down in the links. People were asking what I thought about him, and I got to be honest, I haven't watched enough of him play to have my own actual opinion. I responded to it in Discord. The thing is I'm actually based in Michigan, and so for League Pass, I can't watch the live games in Detroit because of the way they're blocked out. Also, it's Detroit, and if there's a game you're going to miss, like, there's worse teams to have blocked out, so it kind of works out. But I haven't seen enough of Isaiah Stewart. He's playing well over the last few games, but I think he's probably more of a watch list. If you want to jump on it, I can't blame you. Rostered in 13% of leagues. He's only got 3 games this week. I'm honestly more interested. If I was ready to pick up a Detroit player in that ilk, I would actually look at Hamidou Diallo. He's rostered in 25% of leagues. He's still out. I don't know when he's coming back. But if I'm looking at only a 3-game week and it's not a great streaming week for that team, I would rather grab Diallo and hope and swing for upside for next week and have him locked up. That's a little more interesting to me. But there's some options there in Detroit if you're trying to look, and I don't want to cast too many aspersions on the team just because, they are what they are. Continuing on this trend of like swinging for long-term upside, I would take a look at Moses Brown for OKC. So I guess continuing on the trend of not great teams either. Moses Brown rostered in 33% of leagues, but that jumped up 32% in the last day. He was like 1% rostered at one point this week. He's had a pretty good week and a bad game last game. He only had 5 and 4 with a steal and a block, but the game before that, and this is, I'm sure, why his roster shot up, he had 20, 16, and 5 blocks. Like, that's a huge game playing 30 minutes against Chicago. OKC only has 3 games this week, but they get to play Minnesota right out of the gate, and then you get Memphis and Boston. So if you want to take a look at him, he's got 4 games next week. I'm a little more interested in these types of moves this week of you kind of play the team you already have for this week and start thinking ahead a little for next week because I'm just not loving a lot of the way the players available have matched up with the games and stuff. So Hamidou Diallo, Moses Brown, Jordan Poole, like these are the guys that are kind of exciting me the most. Besides it, grabbing some Lakers and hoping for like LeBron replacement, but no one can replace LeBron. That's the thing. That wraps up most of my list. I got a couple honorable mentions for you. Jaylen Nowell I looked at. Last week I didn't talk about him too hard because he didn't have enough games. Now he's got 4 games, but Malik Beasley is supposed to be coming back. I don't know how that's going to affect his minutes. Also, if Russell comes back on unlimited minutes, he might lose a lot of his foothold. And if he's only playing 22 minutes a game, losing anything kind of cuts him from viability. So you give it a look at later in the week. Minnesota gets to play Houston in back-to-back games. And if Nowell's playing well, I would like to pick him up for that. So probably put him on your watch list. Give it a look. Bogdanovic, the Atlanta Bogdanovic, he's under 50% rostered. He hasn't been exploding, but at 46%, he's probably better than player than some of the names I'm talking about here. It's worth a look. Atlanta at least has 4 games this week. And then DeAnthony Melton. Once again, I think he's got talent above a lot of the guys that we're talking about on the list, but they just keep jerking around his minutes. He only played 10 minutes last game, 23 before that. Whatever's going on there, it's just, I can't reliably say, pick him up and he's going to be useful for you in fantasy. So he just stays on my watch list. I picked him up and dropped him a couple times. He's rostering 18%, but they've got 4 games at least this week. Unfortunately, they play Utah back-to-back at the end of the week, so that's not really the greatest matchup for it. Choose your own adventure there. Otherwise, that'll wrap it up for this week. Thank you for watching. Please leave any questions, comments down below. If you didn't see the video from yesterday, you can check out what we talk about the schedule and some of the team matchups you want. And good luck. Go out there and win your week. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. It helps me grow the channel. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe or even the little bell will give you alerts. And I'll be back soon with another video for you.